Hello, very beautiful, beloved soul friends. I am so excited to share this with you. You guys have no idea how deeply my heart is bursting with joy and gratitude. So, on behalf of infinite energies across multiple galaxies, welcome to the first day of the rest of your life. Infinite moments of happily ever after await you. So, once upon a time, there was someone named Kristin Windsor, and she was experiencing life through alternate states of consciousness while healing with adaptable consciousness condition. This was in 2019. During these experiences, Kristin could not create new conscious memories, meaning that she couldn't remember what happened 5 minutes ago, 5 days ago, 5 weeks ago, 5 months ago, and rarely could she even remember what 5 years ago was, depending on what memory she had access to based on independent activity within her neurobiological social engagement system, as various states of consciousness were independently or autonomously encountering activity within this neural wiring that provides automated styles of navigation based on how past experiences cultivated memories that are providing information in the unfoldings based on neural activity unconsciously beyond awareness. Okay, so Kristin couldn't create new conscious explicit memories during 2019, and she had like dozens and dozens of people inside of this body, and all of them were suffering from 1 or 20 billion types of trauma-related health challenges, and the majority of these states of consciousness were very, very young. They were all experiencing chronic age regression. Some were a few months old, some were a couple years old, some were in teenagehood, etc. So 2019 was some very interesting times, to say the least, and you can find out more about these insights in my known documentary series, and I will leave those video links in the description here below. Okay, so 2019, Kristin could not create new conscious memories. And so during this season, she started doing something where she would write down positive moments she experienced, and she called it a moment collector. She couldn't remember anything that was happening, literally nothing. Her body physically could only create new implicit emotional and procedural memories, and even those were so riddled with trauma activations that they were not the most pleasant unconscious memories. But Kristin physically, neurobiologically could not create new conscious memories at all. Zero. Not a single conscious memory was created in 2019. Or the 2 years prior to that, but that's another story for another time. So 2019, Kristin started doing something where she would collect moments by writing them down. And then she started doing something where she said, today, my happily ever after was ... And she would make these notes and save them in a folder, and she called it her moment collector. And I don't have any memories of this. I found this out by going through Kristin's old stuff. She couldn't even remember that that was something she was doing, so she had it saved on her phone as the background. So every time she would click to open her phone, there was a visual prompt, and it was a picture of her, and she had written on it, today my happily ever after was, and that would remind her to do this since she couldn't remember anything, literally. And so Kristin would save these moments of happily ever after in her moment collector. She would type them or write them, etc. Okay, so that was 2019. Kristin had dozens of people inside of this body, all of them experiencing trauma-related health challenges. The majority of them were very young, age-regressive states of consciousness, and she could not create new conscious memories at all. Zero. Zero ability to create autobiographical memories in relation to a sense of self. So then 2020 came, and that started a whole new season of healing for Kristin. And again, you can find out more about this in my known documentary series, and I will leave those video links in the description below. 2020 started a year where these states of consciousness progressed through the final stages of neurodevelopment that had been halted after all the trauma stuff had been transformed. There have been years of this trauma work, including uncovering suppressed childhood trauma that was at the foundation of unique neurodevelopment, divergent neurodevelopment that had resulted in adaptable consciousness condition, which references thesis number 10 of my Implicit Revelations case study. And after all the trauma had been processed, which was,
thousands and thousands and thousands of excruciating hours of work, to say the least. After all that had happened, then there was like this whole other new season of healing where these states of consciousness had to complete their final stages of neurodevelopment. And the little Kristin, who was a very, very small child, went through stages of teenagehood, etc., because she never got to go through that because she had been stuck as a very small child in the unconscious body-mind. Long story short. During this process, there was integration of brain hemispheres as well. The left and the right brain hemisphere at the beginning of 2020 did not have any contact with each other. They were completely different aspects of the self. Literally different people in the brain hemispheres. And you can find out more about this in a known documentary bonus feature that references one of my thesis statements about independent activity in brain hemispheres related with unique orders, or unique order of wiring within the neurobiological social engagement system that results from early childhood trauma. Okay, so 2020 was a very fascinating year, to say the least. And so during this season, it was age regression the entire way through, but Kristin didn't fully understand that at the time because it was manifesting very differently from how she had been experiencing age regression in the years prior. A very unique season, integration of brain hemispheres, integration of nervous systems, and in every moment of every day, more parts of consciousness were coming home to one another and the present moment. Because aspects of consciousness do not integrate. Aspects of consciousness do not integrate. They come home. They come home. There are healing homecomings. Aspects of the brain and the body integrate. So this region of the brain can talk to this region of the brain. And so this aspect of the nervous system can talk to this aspect of the nervous system. But consciousness does not integrate. And this references another of my thesis statements in my implicit revelations case study. So be sure to check that out because, oh my goodness, there is so much magic. You wouldn't even believe it. It could keep you busy for lifetimes. I'm going to spend the rest of my lifetime processing the last year, that's for sure. So 2020 was a big year. So during that year, Kristin set an intention to live happily ever after. And it's astounding to look at this because at the beginning of 2020, Kristin couldn't create conscious explicit memories. Kristin had zero connectivity between her mind and her body. Kristin was in 24/7 chronic flares of a billion different type of trauma activations. Kristin had a bunch of different people in her body, and all of them all, the youngest was regressing all the way to 6 months old, 2 years old, 5 years old, very young. And there was like so much crazy stuff happening, but nevertheless, Kristin said, I'm going to live happily ever after every day. And this like astounds and blows my mind because like I couldn't do that, you know, like if I was there, I'd be like, I'm not living happily ever after. This is gnarly. I couldn't do that, but she did somehow. So that's cool. And so Kristin said, I'm going to live happily ever after. And she didn't know what the year would bring. And so at the beginning of the year, it was different people, no ability to create conscious explicit memories, complete 100% mind-body disconnectivity, all kinds of dissociation happening, all kinds of trauma responses, profound independent activity within the neurobiological social engagement system, which she was just starting to understand in her implicit revelations case study, all kinds of unique stuff. And then by the end of 2020, Kristin was starting to experience brain hemispheric balance for the very first time. Her age regressive states of consciousness were starting to go through the final stages of their neurodevelopment and grow into an adult for the very first time ever. All kinds of unique stuff. During that season, though, Kristin lived happily ever after. And she wrote every single day her moments of happily ever after. Look, happily ever after. Once upon a time, I lived happily ever after, and it wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. And so Kristin wrote happily ever afters, and she journaled every single day about the moments where she lived happily ever after. And so some of them are, you know, don't go falling on me now, babe. Don't go falling on me. And so they're moments. That's the key thing, is that they're moments of happily ever after. So it doesn't have to be like this big ginormous thing that happened, like I got this big giant gift and everything changed in profound ways. They're moments. I saw an autumn leaf fall, and I felt my breath and the fresh air, and I lived happily ever after. I recognized myself in the mirror, and I felt a sense of self-compassion, and I lived happily ever after. I went hiking and felt the sun on my skin, and I lived happily ever after. Moments of happily ever after. So in 2020, Kristin created this. I'm so excited to share this because looking at it, it was really aspects of my manifested inner child who wrote this. So look at all this. Isn't that so cool? Oh, I think that's so cool. Every single day, she wrote about her moments of happily ever after. And of course, that creates neural wiring in the brain that makes it easier to notice moments of happiness because you're retraining yourself to appreciate the little things and be present with love and all that stuff, okay? So that was 2020. And then, at the end of 2020, Kristin created a video and she said, 2021 is your year to live happily ever after. And at this point, 1 year ago, when Kristin created this video, which I'll leave the link for in the video description below, so go ahead and have fun clicking on all the links and exploring all the magic surrounding this video creation because it's a lot of magic worth exploring. I explore it and I'm astounded every single day, and it's my life, so figure it might be even more interesting to someone who hasn't been in it. Anyway, feel free to check out all the links below. I'll leave them all down there for you guys. But when Kristin made this video a year ago, she said 2021 is your year to live happily ever after. At this point, Kristin was still experiencing independent activity in her neurobiological social engagement system where she was unconsciously reliving procedural memories from early childhood. So there was still age regression, but it was manifesting very differently than it had been over all of the years. So it was not easily recognizable at all. Kristin could not remember her entire life, but she didn't know it at the time, which made it all so much more interesting to discover, right? The moment when you realize you can't remember your life, but you didn't know that you couldn't remember your life because you couldn't remember your life. She didn't have awareness that she couldn't remember her life, and it actually took several months to realize that that was what was happening. Yay! Miracles of dissociation and the miraculous wonders of the ever-evolving healing journey. Woohoo! Oh yeah. Never a boring moment. Never a boring moment. So a year ago, Kristin created this video, 2021 is your year to live happily ever after. And at this point, she couldn't remember her life. She was still experiencing age regression and some brain hemispheric imbalance, but she didn't know it at the time because it was so much better than it had been, etc., etc., etc. And at that point, she still could not look back at the past few years of her healing journey because she couldn't see it as explicit autobiographical memories in relation to a sense of self. If Kristin a year ago tried to look back at her life, she would relive the implicit sensations. And all of those, 100% of those, were horrific, terrifying, uncomfortable, overwhelmingly awful, to very much understate it. And so Kristin a year ago tried to look back at the past few years. Her body would relive the sensations, and there wasn't an explicit autobiographical sense of what had happened in relation to a sense of self. A year ago, Kristin had no sense of self because a sense of self comes from how memories are unconsciously providing navigation, and none of them had connection with each other. And so she had no sense of self. She couldn't remember the past 25 plus years of her life. The only pieces she could remember were just abstract, terrifying sensations in her body. And she was still progressing through final stages of neurodevelopment. So she was approximately 15, 16 years old neurodevelopmentally. So, just epic miracles all around, am I right? So a year ago, Kristin created a video, and again, the link is in the description below, so feel free to check that out, and it's kind of fun to see the different phases of evolving and stuff, too. So, in this video, she said 2021 is your year to live happily ever after. And so, in 2021, every single day, the loving awareness of my being, my inner life partner, my inner best friend, and my inner child or inner children all rallied together at the end of every single day and wrote about our moments of happily ever after. And it led to this, okay? So this is from 2020. And in 2019, they were all written on a phone mostly. They were in phone notes, so I don't have the papers of them. Okay, so you see the size of this, right? That was 2020. Get ready. These are my moments of happily ever after from 2021. Infinite moments of happily ever after through the sacred power of love and presence. Every single page, except the first few, every single page, front and back, is completely written on all the moments that I lived happily ever after in 2021. Infinite moments of happily ever after. And it's amazing because I can remember every single day I got to experience my life this year because I have a sense of self. I remember my entire life. And I can create memories in relation to a sense of self. And quite frankly, my memory works better than it ever has in my whole life. Even before I lost the ability to create new conscious memories, my memory works better than it ever has in my whole entire life. And that is such an astounding miracle. So not only did I recover memories from my whole life, not only did I integrate the most unconscious regions of memories, even from childhood, it's a long time ago, and from the past few years where I couldn't create new conscious memories, because I can look at the past few years and recognize what's happened through an autobiographical lens. I don't remember most of the details, but I can look at it objectively without physically reliving any sensations because all of that data is integrated now. And I can remember my whole life. I'm connected with all aspects of me. It's incredible. And I can create new conscious autobiographical memories in relation to a sense of self. And I lived happily ever after this year. And it was only just the beginning. Look at infinite moments of happily ever after. And Kristin had created a podcast at one point. Of course, I have memories of this. I vaguely remember an abstract sensation of it or whatever, but I don't remember actually creating it. But in this podcast episode, and I'll leave the link for that in the video description below as well. I mentioned it also in part 1 of my known documentary series where I share my personal healing journey story. But Kristin created this podcast, and one of the central themes was you don't have to wait until the end of the story to find what you're looking for. And I found that to be so profound because so often we go through this life and it's like, okay, I'll feel really good when I have this giant house and this beautiful car and this thriving career and 20,000 friends and my romantic partner and 2.5 pets. And, we have this vision of what life is supposed to be. But the truth is that everything we really want is inside of us. And when we tap into that, no matter what else is happening, no matter what is or isn't happening, we have the power to live happily ever after. It can be this unconditional state of being where this day is perfect because I'm alive in it. That's one of my mantras that I like to go to. This day is perfect because I'm alive to experience it. So even if stuff doesn't go my way, even if stuff happens that is less than desirable, even if I don't get things that I wish I had, this day is perfect because I'm alive to experience it. This day is magnificent and beautiful and miraculous and divine because I'm breathing. And to have that level of internal satisfaction, it gives you so much power. It gives you so much power to energetically influence the unfoldings of reality. It gives you so much power to embody your state of being without conditions. It gives you so much power to cultivate infinite moments of happily ever after, regardless of what is happening outside of you or around you. And the more this power is cultivated from within, the more power we have to exert in all styles of situations. So that's my little happily ever after story to see how it's evolved and progressed, where 2019, Kristin started this moments of happily ever after and how it's progressed and led to all of these. And
So heavy. All of these. It's just astounding. And it's beautiful because this was something Kristin had actually tried doing before. Several years back, Kristin had tried doing a 100 Days of Happiness challenge or something, and she had a hard time sticking with it. And so to be here now in this phase of evolving where things are just continually expanding and getting better and better is so beautifully miraculous, okay? So that's my little story about Happily Ever After. That's kind of the backdrop of this practice. And all of that brings me to you. Yes, hi. Hello. Hi. Oh, is there a person in there? Hi, you. Yes, you. Hello. It's lovely to see you. I'm so glad you're here. How's it going? I'm so grateful to connect with you. What's up? How you doing? Hi. Okay. All right. So now it brings me to you. Hi, friends. Okay. So I have a challenge for you. Okay, that didn't go as gracefully as planned. Those are supposed to be trumpets to announce the exciting announcement. My challenge for you is to set a healing journey intention to live happily ever after in 2022. Okay? A new year is coming. And no matter who we are, where we're at in the healing journey, we can set an intention to unconditionally live happily ever after. And it might not be what you think. Okay? Living happily ever after doesn't mean that everything is perfect and magical and magnificent. Okay? In this year of 2021, where I lived happily ever after to this monumental degree, I probably spent about 1/5 of my time sobbing my guts out. While processing stuff. Okay, like truth be told, even though there's this many happily ever afters, I probably spent about 1/5 of my life crying. Because I was processing and releasing and integrating this stuff and welcoming more of my consciousness home. And a large other portion of it was spent doing, creating and expressing and doing some stuff that was really hard to do. Like, I remember finding a video, it was like a little blooper thingy from Kristin's known documentary, and she's sitting in front of the camera like, oh my God, this is so much harder than I thought, because how do you talk about stuff that you don't remember? How do you normalize the most indescribable experiences of a lifetime and express them fluidly as the adult you are today when you don't remember the experiences that led you there? And you're experiencing the brain and the body of an adult for the first time in many, many years, So there were a lot of challenges this year, but that didn't stop Kristin from living happily ever after. Okay? That didn't stop Kristin from living happily ever after. So my challenge for you in 2022 is to live happily ever after every day. And that might look like, today, I breathed and I lived happily ever after. It might not be big monumental things where you're jumping up and down with joy, and that's okay. It might be, you might have those. Come on in, Pookie Bear. My cat was knocking on my door. He's really cute like that. It might not be really big stuff where you're jumping up and down with joy every single day. Ideally, that's where we're going to get to and we're going to grow to, but that might not be what happens right away, and that's okay. A lot of times, living happily ever after looks like very small things. Today, I woke up and I felt peace in my body. And I lived happily ever after. Today, I woke up and there was weather existing. Some sense of an atmosphere in nature. And I lived happily ever after. Today, I got to watch an autumn leaf fall off a tree. And I lived happily ever after. Today, I looked at rainbows in soap bubbles while washing my hands. And I lived happily ever after. Today, I got to pet my super soft cat, and I lived happily ever after.
Today, I ate an incredibly delicious meal, and I lived happily ever after. Today, I got to express myself in a new way, and I lived happily ever after. Today, I saw a ladybug on a flower, and it had more spots than I've ever seen on a ladybug before, and I lived happily ever after. Today, I saw a flock of birds fly from one tree to another, and they looked like a school of fish, but in the sky, and I lived happily ever after. Today, I got to wake up in a balloon fort with Christmas lights, and I lived happily ever after. Today, I did yoga, and my body was healthy, and I lived happily ever after. Today, I went for a walk, and I got to feel my feet touch the ground with each step, and I lived happily ever after. Today, I dreamed new dreams, and I closed chapters on old stories, and I lived happily ever after. Today, I embodied my infinite divine worth, and I lived happily ever after. Today, etc., etc. They don't have to be big things. They don't have to be big things, but every part of our being is worthy of living happily ever after in every moment of every day. So no matter who you are or where you're at or what your healing journey looks like right now, I just really challenge you to let 2022 be the year that you live happily ever after. And to not place conditions on that. To let yourself be exactly who and where you are. I couldn't have lived happily ever after in every moment of every day this entire year if Kristin was resisting who and where she was. At the beginning of the year, I didn't have a sense of self. I couldn't remember my life. I couldn't remember my childhood. I couldn't remember my adulthood. And every moment felt very confusing and overwhelming because I didn't really understand who I was, where I was, what I was doing. Everything was confusing and overwhelming, and I didn't get it. Nothing really made sense. And if I had been like, oh my God, but I just want to remember my life, but I just want to have this already. Why isn't this happening? I wouldn't have been able to live happily ever after. But Kristin had the courage to surrender to her healing journey and embrace every moment as an opportunity to embody her power and take one more step, even if she didn't know where that path was leading. And because of that, I lived happily ever after. And in that process, I regained all of me. I regained all of me. I can remember my childhood. I can remember my adulthood. I have a greater clarity of who I am, what I want, where I'm headed, what I'm worth, and where my power is than ever before. I'm happier and healthier than I've ever been in my life. And that's a miracle. So I really just challenge you, or invite you. I invite you to live happily ever after in 2022. Let go of what's happened. Every day is a brand new start. Every single day is a brand new healing start. That's actually a line from one of Kristin's slam poems when she was manifested as a teenager last year. She wrote some slam poetry and some music and made some music videos. And that was one of the lines in them. Every single moment of every day is a brand new opportunity. We have the power to shift the energy of our being anytime, anywhere, any place, anyhow, any why. You don't need a reason to love yourself. You don't need a reason to love yourself free, to love yourself whole, to love yourself home. You don't need a reason to heal into happiness. You deserve it. You have the power to do it. And that's reason enough. So I challenge you, I invite you, I welcome you into infinite moments of happily ever after. A new year is approaching us. A fresh opportunity to embody your power, embody your worth. Decide what kind of life you want to lead and invest in those energies unconditionally. Let go of external attachments and develop attachments to your own self-essence. The more that you become attached to you and release outer attachments, the more power you have. You set yourself free in ways you didn't even know were possible. And from the embodiment of that infinite power, any dream can come true. The impossible becomes inevitable. And things that you never dared to dream of start to appear in everyday life. I love you. I'm so proud of you for embracing your healing journey. Thank you for sharing it with me. Please do feel free to explore the links and other offerings that I share in the video description below. If you'd ever like to connect one-on-one through a consciousness consultation, I offer my services through my Consciousness Consultancy. They range from 30 minutes to 2 hours, offered through audio and video calls. It's an absolute blessed honor to connect with you and share the healing journey of life. I can connect with you on basically any healing journey topic, and it's always an honor to share that time. And I also offer a variety of creations through Kristin's Consciousness Consultancy, from healing journey programs that can last several years. I'm still personally using all of the programs I've made because they keep adding more transformation. It's so amazing. It's truly so amazing. Every single thing that I've made, I'm still using in my personal life, and it keeps having new layers and levels of transformative results. And so it makes me even more excited to share them because I've experienced the power and impact they have, and it makes me so excited for you to get to experience this magic as well. So you can explore a variety of healing journey programs, and then there's a variety of practices through videos that are intended to last a few months or 1 or 2 years kind of tops. They're like a shorter thing versus like 2 to 5 year programs and practices that are a little bit more here and now or whatever. There's Delicious Magic Play Shop, Inner Child Liberation Hand Dance, Subconscious Affirmations, Guided Meditation Collection. With the programs, there's Healing into Happiness, Restoring Consciousness, Implicit Transformation, Dear Inner Life Partner, etc. Variety of offerings. I also have my Implicit Revelations gift package, a bonus feature of my case study that has the best of my work. It's so profound. Every time I look at it, I'm like, this is so cool. It's so amazing what's been discovered, and most of it was stuff that was created before I could make new memories. And so looking at it is always so astounding because it's stuff that I don't have conscious memories of, and the way that Kristin expresses these ideas is very profound. So I'm excited to share it with you. Implicit Revelations gift package. I also offer personalized creations, self-hypnosis sessions, and bedtime or sleep time affirmation tracks, and those are super mega magical as well. Kristin used her own personalized creation for her healing journey. When Kristin didn't have associations with herself, the process of creating and using them for herself was actually part of how she started to create new neural associations with what her voice sounded like. A year ago, Kristin couldn't recognize the sound of her own voice, and now I can, and that's one reason I love talking, because I actually know who I am when I speak, and that is a miracle. And the self-hypnosis session was how Kristin started to recover her childhood memories at the beginning of this year. And so after personally experiencing the power that these personalized creations have, I am so much more excited to share them with you guys because I know how magical they can be, not just to experience in the moment, but the powerful results of true transformation in the unconscious body mind that inevitably arise when you continually apply these personalized creations. So I'm very excited to share these with you guys, and I'd be absolutely honored to serve as your healing journey guide. So please do feel free to explore all my many mega magical offerings through Kristin's Consciousness Consultancy. It would just be an absolute blessed privilege and a sacred honor to have the opportunity to serve as your healing journey guide. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being you. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a like or a comment or share it. I always love getting to share magics. Face paint, by the way. Face paint. Because inner child liberation. All day, every day. Gotta paint your face just because you're alive to do it. I love you. I hope you have a blessed day and a happy new year. And infinite moments of happily ever after await you. Da 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 da. The end. Have a beautiful and blessed day, beloved soul friends. Namaste. The divine light and love in me sees and honors the divine light and love in you. Infinite blessings. Thank you for being here. And thank you for being you.